Sometimes, mythology and history are so closely intertwined that it can be hard to distinguish fact from fiction. When we look back through the corridors of time, we see the stories and myths passed down from ancient cultures and view them as utterly fantastic and unbelievable. But to the people who crafted these stories, that was just everyday life. Gods, monsters, and primeval forces of chaos moved the very ground upon which they stood. Nowhere is the line between history and myth more blurry than in the elusive yet fascinating culture of the Minoan people. Minoans first arrived on the scene around 5,000 years ago on the island of modern-day Crete. What little we know of them today comes to us mainly from the archaeological discoveries made at Knossos, a city that the poet Homer references by name in the Odyssey. A large palace was discovered at Knossos in the late 19th century by a Cretan archaeologist, and later excavations revealed that it was a massive complex filled with murals, painted columns, decorated tilework, and even a basic sewage system. The structure was made up of various halls and corridors, so much so that some scholars suggest it was the inspiration for the labyrinth in the myth of the Minotaur and Theseus. The daily life and culture of these ancient peoples is still largely mysterious. It is clear that they prospered due to agricultural surplus, and artifacts recovered from the time period showcase a passion for craftsmanship. The culture would have been dominated by a king, or perhaps even multiple kings, and the king would have held a religious role as well as a governmental one. Tablets were discovered with Cretan hieroglyphs as well as a writing system known to scholars as Linear a companion of the Linear B that would form the basis of ancient Greek. The language of the Minoans still remains mostly undeciphered. This small figurine of a man leaping over a giant bull was one of the various artifacts discovered at Knossos. Made of bronze, it depicts something that could have held possible religious significance to the Minoan people. Bull leaping is an image found on various murals within the palace, so it's not surprising that they would have depicted it in three-dimensional form as well. The fact that the sculpture is made of bronze is intriguing, since tin is not a resource native to the island of Crete, and it would have likely been imported to the island from elsewhere. It proves that the Minoans had an extensive trade network set up between them and their neighbors. Trade and agriculture were the backbones of ancient cultures during this period. The sculpture itself depicts an exaggerated form of bull leaping which would have been physically impossible to perform in real life. It may very well have been displayed in a shrine or temple, or even the palace itself. Bulls were most likely revered as divine, since evidence from Knossos shows that horns decorated various religious shrines throughout the area. The practice of bull leaping might have been performed at religious ceremonies or festivals, hence why it is depicted in so many places. The imagery of bulls would cement the legacy that the island and its mythical and possibly historical king, Minos, received during the revival of Greek civilization in around 1000 BC and afterwards. Undoubtedly, the culture and legacy of the Minoans influenced the Greeks during their re-emergence. There was the myth of Minos' birth, where Zeus disguised himself as a bull in order to seduce his mother, and of course, the most famous of all, the myth of the Minotaur. Ironically, it seems that in the modern day, the story of the Minotaur has outshined the very king who gave the beast its name. The majority of Minoan society vanished around 1450 BC, leaving nothing but the ruins of its palaces and shrines. The exact cause of their downfall is unknown, but some historians suggest that it was caused by an enormous volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera in 1600 BC. This eruption would have devastated what was left of Minoan civilization, and would have left them open to invasion from the emerging Mycenaean forces. To this day, there is still so much to be learned and discovered about their lives and culture. Were they a militant society? There were no defensive walls in any of their cities, yet some graves have been shown to house collections of weapons. Until the tablets containing Linear A and Cretan hieroglyphs are fully deciphered, we may never really get a clear picture of the culture and general practices of this once great civilization. So for now, the civilization of the Minoans will remain clouded by myth and legend, lost in the hallways and corridors of an endless labyrinth, until some new discovery can rescue it from the prisons of time.